Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. My guest this episode is Tom from the YankeesCenter Podcast. He's here to give us his take on the current state of the Yankees and if they'll be able to earn one of those two available wildcard spots. So let's bring him on. Hey, Tom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man.
Pleasure. Now, people can follow you on Twitter, Tom_Smith717. Now, you're the co-host of a couple of podcasts, the Cape Time podcast, which deals with comics, which is they're awesome, but more relevant for today. Co-host also of the YankeesCenter Podcast, which people can also follow on Twitter at Yankees_Center. It's available on YouTube, Apple, and all the cool podcasts all available.
All of them, just all of them. Oh, no problem, man.
So about you, I guess you're a Yankee fan, but where are you based out of?
I'm from Connecticut. I'm from Southern Connecticut, and I've always been a Yankee fan. And it's pretty obvious why I'm a Yankee fan. I'm only about an hour or so away from the stadium, and so it's just been love at first sight, I guess. So,
all right, and because I know Connecticut's a weird area. Because I've talked to a lot of fans there, and it's like you get some Red Sox fans, you get some Yankee fans, so it's kind of like it's almost like between the 38th parallel between North and South Korea in a way.
It's like the Bermuda Triangle of baseball fans. Like you got some Mets fans over here, you got some Red Sox fans. Like I was very close with my high school baseball team, and so everyone it seemed like everyone was either Yankee, Red Sox, or Met fan, and so that was during kind of the dark years for the Yankees. And so the Red Sox, I believe they won. I think they were really good my senior year, and I think that was the year they won the World Series. And then the Mets made the World Series in 2015. So that was the dark years of the Yankees. Like they were kind of going through the retool. And I'm just sitting there, one of the Yankee fans, and I got my Mets friends talking about how their team, that was when they were getting really good. DeGrom was coming up, emerging, Syndergaard, all those guys. And I'm just like, oh man, when is my team gonna finally make the World Series? And we're still waiting, obviously. But yeah, it really is the Bermuda Triangle of baseball, I guess you can say.
Yeah, those were bleak years because I think it was like the whole the core four kind of all retiring. CC was kind of transitioning from power pitcher to finesse pitcher, and yeah, those are kind of 3 or 4 lost years in there. Let's get into some Yankee talk themselves. So,
all right.
Obviously, it's a dogfight now. You got pretty much the Yankees, Toronto, Red Sox, kind of all vying for those 2 wildcard spots. Just what do you feel? Do you think the Yankees are going to be one of those teams, or are they going to be kind of on the outside looking in?
Yeah, I mean, I said a few days ago, last week, that I would bet money on us not making the playoffs. I mean, we saw earlier this month that Toronto came into Yankee Stadium and they took care of us. Earlier this month, they beat us 4 straight times and it really didn't feel close. They even got to Garrett Cole, which, that's your ace. That's never a good thing. So if I were to bet money on it, I would say no. Even the Red Sox are playing really good ball too. They have been all year. Alex Cora is a great manager. So you just hope they're close. It's a close race. It's not like I'm saying this is insurmountable. And you've got a chance in this last run of games. You got a chance to play both of these teams. You're playing them. What you got 3 against Toronto and 3 against Boston. That's your opportunity. If you want to make it, you got to win. You got to go into their place and do what they did to you.
Yes, I agree. And in those 4 games when Toronto came here and kicked our butts, the Yankees never had a lead in any of those games.
No,
the first time since the 1920s that ever happened to them. And I think the first time since 2003, they got swept at home. So yeah, those is miserable. But again, the good news, like what you said, the Yankees technically do have they control their own destiny. So they're playing all these teams. The only problem is of all of them, the Yankees have the toughest schedule because I think the last 2 series, the Yankees have to play the Jays, which are tough, and then the
3
Rays,
playoff teams. Yeah,
exactly. And the Rays, it's gonna be interesting. Like those last 3 games, are the Rays gonna just kind of chill out a little bit and kind of set up their rotation for a playoff run, or they're gonna say, hey, let's just get in there and stick it to the Yankees and knock them out, or it might be the opposite. Maybe the Rays just say, hey, you know what, we'll just take it easy, and maybe the Yankees could steal those last 3 games at home. So it's gonna be interesting. The Rays are really gonna determine the Yankees' future, how it comes out.
Yeah, that's going to be that last 3-game series is going to be a bit of a nightmare, to be honest, because the Rays always play us tough. I don't think they would. I think they're too smart to say like, "Hey, we're going to throw our ace out here." They've always just found a way to win, which is just. I try not to like make sense out of what the Rays do, because like it seems like every year they call up about 5 guys who like are instant MLB starting caliber players, and it's like I wish we could do that, but they're gonna play us tough, but I don't see them like emptying out their bullpen. I don't see them doing anything too crazy that would they're not going to sell their souls to keep the Yankees out in order. They want to prepare for the playoffs. They're getting ready for that.
And I hope that's the case. And because I think all the saving grace that the games are at Yankee Stadium, because this Tropicana is just a nightmare for the Yankees to play. I just hate that ballpark, even though you got that little cowbell ring in. It just seems like it's just very frustrating to watch a game there. Just like especially like Chapman on the mound or something, you'll just be sweating bullets. And if you look at the other 2 teams, the Red Sox, they close the year out against the Orioles and the Nationals. So that's like 6 easy wins. And the Jays close out against the Twins, as well as the Orioles as well. So again, of the 3 teams, the Yankees do have the toughest, last 2 series of the 3. So again, like you said, if that's the case, it just seems like it's going to bet money. The Yankees probably are going to be on the outside looking in.
Yeah, I mean, like if you want to make the playoffs, you're going to have to win these, like each of these last few series. You're not like, you can't lose a series to Toronto and expect to jump them in the standings, and you can't not beat Boston up in Fenway and expect the same thing. It's just not going to happen. It's you have to win these series. It is like this is the point. And we lost a lot of games that we should have won earlier this year, and it's coming back to bite us, because now, if we won a few of those games, we would be in the wild card. So you got to win these series, or else it's over.
Yeah, I think the only good news from that it's going to make them really battle tested. Let's say they do well in these next 2 weeks. I think it's because it's just going to make them a real hungry, gritty team that if they could get into the playoffs, that will carry over and actually be a benefit. But again, it's like I said, the playoffs are like now.
Yeah, it's like we are basically playing a playoff, like a week's worth of playoff games. Like you're not making the playoffs if you don't win these. So got to do it.
So, and it's funny thing to that like it all comes down to let's say the Yankees do miraculously, become one of those wild card teams. Then but that game is just like a 1-game showdown. So you could play great for 2 weeks. You have that 1-game playoff against the other wild card team, and you could just get hammered. And that's just how crazy it is.
And that's why you got to put a big importance on winning a division. That's why I believe during the Aaron Boone era, I think they've only won 1 division, and that was 2019. And ironically enough, that was the year they went the deepest in the playoffs. They made the ALCS, and they made it to that 6th game, and then Jose Altuve broke our hearts, and after that, we found out about some cheating that they were doing down there. But Chapman hung a slider, and I think most people could have hit that pitch, to be honest. So, but yeah, you got to win the division, and the Rays have it pretty much wrapped up now. And something that really irks me about the way the Yankees have handled the past few regular seasons and in this regular season is, there was a lot of times where I thought, hey, maybe we didn't necessarily put our best foot forward, and it ends up costing you a division, especially in a division in which you have to go against the Blue Jays, who are emerging. They're really good. Let's be honest, they are really good. And the Rays and the Red Sox, you got to win. You got to win that division, or else you are going to the wild card or not making the playoffs at all, and that's a real possibility.
Yeah, and the Yankees kind of shot themselves in the foot a little because those are 4 tough teams. But the Orioles, the Yankees only went 11-8 against them. That's a team where you should go
there you go
15-3 at a minimum. Or a couple years ago, I think when they completely swept the Orioles 18-0, but they didn't take advantage of that. Again, it's a garbage team with 30 games under 500, and they kind of wasted a lot of those easy wins.
Yeah, they already hit the 100 loss mark. So congratulations to them, I guess. It's just not like it perplexes me like how poor the overall performance was against them. And it's not just against them. We lost the season series to the Mets, and we just never took advantage of bad teams this year. And that's going to end up costing you, it's going to definitely cost the division. That's over, but, and it could cost a wild card spot as well. And it not only could it cost you a wild card spot, it could cost you, if you do make the wild card, it could cost you home field. Like you may not get the wild card at Yankee Stadium, and now you want to go to up to Toronto. You want to go to Fenway for a 1-game wild card shot. No, I mean, like, it's like stuff that happens in April and May and June comes back to affect you here now in September. So I don't know. It's been a weird year, to say the least, for the Yankees.
Yeah, they've had just so many crushing losses too. Like I just think about that 7-0 game they blew when they knocked Otani out in the first inning.
Yeah, that rain delay.
And I know they had like the rain delay and all that as well, but like they blow a 7-0 lead.
You got
in a couple of those games up in Fenway where they tied it and took the lead, but then blew it in the bottom of the ninth. And it's like I said, it's been a very frustrating season. They've had so many squandered easy wins they squandered, but also this brutal losses, this blowing big leads and stuff like that. And and like on the other side of the spectrum, I know like that Minnesota game from the other week where the rain game they were down 5-0. They come back, Judge hits a big 3-run home run, but there's like less of those games this season and more the other way of this heartbreaking losses.
Oh, there have been way more of those games than good comebacks for us. I believe the stat that I saw was like that comeback against Minnesota was our first time coming back and winning a game where we were down 4 or more runs. And so it hasn't been a year of the comeback. It's been a year of the heartbreak, really. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but remember the last game before the All-Star break against the Astros.
Oh, yeah. That was another one. 8-2
we had an opportunity. Remember that game before Garrett Cole pitched a complete game shutout, and then we were riding high off of that. And then on Sunday, we had that game won. We were up by 4 or 5 in the 9th. And then, Altuve once again, he really has to stop breaking our hearts. It's getting annoying, I'm going to say. But, those games, they come back. I mean, that's 3-4 games we mentioned. And, if we say we won 2 of those games, if we won 2 of those games, we would be ahead in the wild card. We would be one of the wild card teams. So everything you do ends up coming back to you. And like, those aren't just games where there's like a 50-50 chance. No, those are games where you had them won. Like you had them on the ropes and you just had to knock them out. You had to get 3 outs and you didn't do it. And when that happens, it's just been brutal. So I don't know.
Yeah. And then the fans, I think, are feeling it too. I mean, obviously that Sunday game when Cleveland came in, they kind of whipped out butts as well.
Yeah.
And seeing Cole get booed off the mound, were you kind of surprised seeing that?
Nothing surprises me with New York, and I understand they're not booing Garrett Cole, the person, or the season that he's had this year. They are just booing that one individual performance in which he did not really have the good stuff. And like, there was some bad luck involved in that start too. I don't know if you remember that first inning, there was the reason they scored 2 runs was because of a little ground ball hit that just got by Rizzo, and it wasn't even hit hard. And like Aaron Judge was playing center field that day, and he's a big guy, so he's not as fast as Brett Gardner. And he had a diving play where it clanked off of his glove, and maybe Brett Gardner catches it, and that costs another 2-3 runs. And so stuff like that. There was a lot of weird stuff that happened. Obviously, he gave up a few home runs as well, but like nothing surprises me about the booing just because it's New York. It's what happens, but I think they're fine. Like he'll be fine, and he's got a chance to redeem himself in a few. These last 2 starts, he's got a shot. He's got a shot to win a Cy Young award. He's going to go for that, and he's got 2 premier teams that he's going to have to go up against and be the ace to get his team into the playoffs. And so,
right. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like I think some people made a little too much of the booing, but I think there's
Yeah.
different levels of booing. Like you say, I agree with you. I think it was just about the day of the performance. Now there's certain players like, A-Rod, where just half the fans hated him for no reason, or something like a Kyle Farnsworth who was just terrible out of the bullpen. Like those boos, like I hate
I
you
remember
today and
that guy. I
forever.
remember.
Yeah, like something like that. Yeah, but the cold boo is just like, hey, you suck today. Just to let you know.
Just letting you know right now, you were not good today, and we kind of needed you to be good, because that was the rubber game. That was the rubber game in the series. So you wanted to win. That would have clinched the series for us, and we won that first game, and then those last two games, woo, that was not a good. That was not good.
Night and day. And and also Boone, I guess, trying to get the most out of Gleyber, kind of does the infield switch, moving everyone around. Do you agree with the move, and do you like that move?
Yeah, it was time. I mean, shortstop is one of the most valuable positions in baseball. I mean, it's usually like shortstop, center field. Those are the two positions that you want. You want at least like average defense around there. It's too valuable. And like I said this on the podcast in our most recent episode that Gleyber made an error on that Sunday night game against the Mets, and it directly led to a 3-run home run by Francisco Lindor. I don't know if you remember, but he couldn't play a ball that was coming in, and it bounced, hit off of his glove. Clark Schmidt, the pitcher at the time, got the next guy out. That would have been 3 outs if Gleyber meant to play. Francisco Lindor goes deep with that extra out. And it's stuff like that. Gio Urshela is much more sure-handed. Second base isn't as valuable as a position, and it's a shorter throw to first base as well. So you got that'll help him out. So I like the move, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm surprised they didn't do it sooner because, when Gleyber was a second baseman, he was an all-star for us. And then as soon as they let Didi go and made the switch, I didn't say they had to because LeMay was a second baseman, because Gleyber just hasn't been the same player. Now, lately he's been hitting better, okay, but for some reason, like putting him back to shortstop, which was his original position in the minors. So I don't know why, it did seem to mess with his head. And he kind of maybe just brought the sloppy defense over to the plate. And that's why he wasn't hitting well, because he's kind of been, him and a few others, it's been like Gary Sanders, it's been a disappointment at the plate.
Yeah, I mean, shortstop, there's a lot of responsibility for a shortstop, especially a young guy like Gleyber. Gleyber's only 24 years old. I think we got to remember that. He's like the age that most prospects come up, and he's been a 4-year MLB veteran. The stuff that I don't like with Gleyber is usually like, I'm a little disappointed that we're 4 years into his career and we see a lot of like concentration errors, that kind of stuff. I don't throw out the word lazy. I don't think Gleyber's a lazy player. I don't think Gary Sanchez is a lazy player. I think they make mistakes. I think sometimes they have moments where it's like their concentration wasn't fully in there, and that can lead to an error. And so you're taking the responsibility off of Gleyber by moving him back to second base. And I think that allows you to clear your head a little bit. I think Gleyber's gonna finish his season relatively strong. I think he will play fine defense at second base. And like, hey, we can chalk this year up to a weird year, down year, and then going into the playoffs. Let's just hope he has a good playoff run and carries that into 2022. I wouldn't give up on it.
And for one of the players you just mentioned before with Sanchez, obviously, at the end of this year, the Yankees have to make a decision because he only had a 1-year deal for $6 million. I mean, we've seen him at the plate. It's like, it's just been getting bad, like blocking balls and stuff like that. And it's almost like he's a DH who has a cannon of an arm. He can throw runners out, but receiving the ball has been terrible. I mean, would you consider bringing him back, or you guys say, look, you know what? You're 28 years old. It's not going to get better. We got to cut the cord here.
On our last podcast episode, funny enough, we went through the catching free agent market, and it's pretty dry. It's not a good market. And like Gary Sanchez has a slightly above average OPS. I don't know how familiar you are with those numbers, but like his offensive numbers are decent enough, and like his catching numbers, he's not a good blocker, but his a lot of the new school baseball thought is more about framing and that stuff, and he's actually okay there. So like if you want to bring him back for one more year, especially in a market in which catchers are just not there, like there's nobody there on that free agent market that I would say I want that guy starting 100 games for the Yankees next year. So I have no problem bringing him back, even if it's been a disappointing year. Especially the thing that disappoints me the most is like he had that one really great run earlier this season, and he just really fell off a cliff in the second half, and it's just really disappointing because I don't root for anyone against anyone on. I don't root against anyone on the Yankees. I want to see this guy be a successful player. So hopefully he can finish strong and have hopefully get himself a contract next year.
Yeah, same way. Like I thought he was going to have a big season. Like, yeah, he did have that little spurt, like big back in June, and then like Boone was batting him third for a couple of weeks, so he was hot. But again, it's never. I don't know if the scouts kind of changed pitches on him. He was never able to readjust. But very, very interesting. Like now, another player that Yankees have who they'll have to make a decision on, who I like, is Anthony Rizzo at first base. He's exactly what you want. He's a left-handed, good defense, perfect for Yankee Stadium. But something like that is going to get like a 5-6 year deal for like over $100 million. I don't know. I just don't think the Yankees would commit to that just, because they have to spend money in some other areas.
Yeah, I like Rizzo a lot, but I don't see that happening. I think, I think what's more likely, to be honest, is going after a shortstop. I think that I haven't heard anything specifically. I'm not well sourced, but like just the gut feeling is that, they're going to go after a shortstop. And we all know DJ LeMahieu is a very capable first baseman when they put him there. I think you could see an infield in which you have, if I were to guess, the shortstop that they would go after, it would be Trevor Story of the Colorado Rockies. It seems like that would be the fit, or Corey Seager of the Dodgers, although I see him more as a third baseman because he's kind of a bigger guy, and you probably want to move him to a corner sooner than later. But you could have Glaber at second, Trevor Story at short, Gio Urshela at third, and LeMahieu at first. You're going to sacrifice some power at first base for sure, because DJ is not a 25-30 home run guy, but that's the way I see it.
So let's say now, obviously the magic question, let's say the Yankees don't make the playoffs, don't make the wild card. Obviously Boone's not resigned to next season. You think the Yankees bring him back, or they kind of just say, hey, look, someone has to be accountable for this, and we're going to go elsewhere for a manager?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth on this like all week, all like it's been a conversation for a few weeks, because like there is a real palpable scenario in which we do not make the playoffs. And this was a team at the beginning of this year where everyone was picking them to, at least go to the World Series. Like they were the clear AL East. I mean, the clear AL favorite. People thought we were winning 100 games and all that. So I think like my gut says like he will be back next year in some way. But what I will say is like I don't know if he's going to get a multiple year contract. What I would say is I believe Brian Cashman's contract is coming up within the next year or two.
Yeah, there's one more year left after this. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they might do, this is my gut feeling, is that they're going to bring Boone back. They're going to say, hey, we'll give you 1 year because Cashman, that's Cashman's guy, Aaron Boone. Yeah, it was Brian Cashman's idea to go after a guy like Aaron Boone, a more relaxed presence. We all know why they did that. I would say like they're kind of like a package deal in my head. And so if you're going to fire Boone, you got to fire the person responsible for Boone being here in the first place. Like you can't, fire one guy and not hold the other guy accountable. So that's my gut feeling. What happened after 2017 was like the Yankees were considered this next great Yankee big dynasty because they had Aaron Judge, Luis Severino, Greg Bird, all that. What a name, throwback, and all those young prospects. And they also had this young prospect down in the minor leagues that was one of the top prospects in baseball. His name was Gleyber Torres, and they were thought of as like that next big team. And we haven't even gotten to a World Series, and and we've seen steep declines from some of these prospects. I mean, Gary Sanchez I thought Gary Sanchez had a real shot to be one of the best offensive catchers, not just in baseball at the time, but his potential was through the roof. I thought he could have been one of the best offensive catchers ever. And we've seen what happened to Gleyber, and he hasn't gotten his defense figured out. And it's like, that's kind of a reflection on your manager that this hasn't gotten, cleaned up over 4 years. So that's how I would do it.
Yeah, and like I said, I totally agree. Like we thought, 2016, 2017, like Sanchez, like record-breaking numbers. He was putting up this with the power, and figure we had our next core form. Like, again, it's kind of been disintegrating, and now that window's kind of closing because Judge and Sanchez and all these guys are gonna be, they're gonna be owed contracts, and you have to make big decisions on them. I think the only problem with Cashman, he's never able to put together a good stable of like 3 or 4 quality starters. Kind of if you look back in the late 90s, you had Cone, El Duque, Pettit, Wells, Musina. Like, not always the same guy. I think the names would shift a little bit, but you always had like 3 or 4 stud starters. It just seems Cashman has never been able to find that. We always have like a good Tanaka, but everyone else is like, You have a good CC, everyone else is like, Now we have a good Cole, and you have a bunch of question marks after that. We don't even know who really the number 2 or 3 starter is yet,
Yeah, I mean, next year should be fun though. Next year should be really fun. We just we got Severino back recently, and that was really good. And obviously, he's going to pitch out of the bullpen for the rest of this year, most likely. But heading into next year, he's only 27 years old, so he's a young guy. He came up in 2015 at the ripe old age of 21, so it's pretty crazy that he's been around for 6 years now. So you're going to have Garrett Cole, Luis Severino. Those are 2 of the best pitchers in the American League. And then, a guy that I wanted to point out is Jordan Montgomery, who's had a really, really nice year for himself, even though the wins and losses aren't there because he's got the worst run support in baseball. He's pitched to, I believe, a 3.52 ERA this year.
Yeah, definitely on the floor. Yeah, he's been good.
Yeah, he's been a perfectly solid pitcher for the Yankees. And even a guy like Nestor Cortez came out of nowhere and really he's pitched to an ERA under 3, and it's crazy. And it's been the offense that's really been the problem this year, and it's pretty crazy considering that Brian Cashman's big knock has always been, hey, you can't put together a starting rotation. I still get nightmares about the Cliff Lee trade that never happened back in 2010. That definitely still hurts to this day because you would have had prime CC Sabathia, prime Cliff Lee at the time. But yeah, I mean, I think our rotation is actually in pretty good shape, especially, I think the guy that I forgot to mention is Luis Hill, who has come up and pitched really well. If he can get those walks down, that guy has crazy arm talent.
And you also have Herman and Taillon also in the mix. So yeah, they got a lot of good options to work with. So as we close out, just tell us about your podcast and kind of what anything you have planned for the future for it.
Yeah, I mean, Yankee Center, I host it with my 2 friends, Luke and Eddie. And we just it's not like a set schedule. We don't have a set schedule. But what we do is we come in at certain points of the Yankee season.
Tom, I appreciate your time. Again, people can follow you on Twitter, Tom_Smith717. And of course, check out the Yankee Center podcast available on YouTube, Apple, and all the awesome spots that the podcast available. Again, Tom, let's root for those Yankees win these last 6-7 games here.
Yes, go Yankees.